Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is MuhammadReifskyAlfares, and today I would like to review the chapter 13 of Theory of Culture, and that is the cultural analysis of postmodernism and postmodernity. So let's just get straight to the PPT, shall we? Chapter 13: The cultural analysis of postmodernism and postmodernity. So this chapter is divided by 5 parts, and that is postmodernism in architecture, postmodernism in art and literature, postmodernity in social theory, further critiques and debates, and then globalization and culture. Chapter 1: Postmodernism in architecture. Postmodernism in architecture. The field in which the concept of postmodern first came to the firmly established was that of architecture, as debates about architecture have long held a central place in discussions on postmodernism among cultural theorists, as well as architects and planners. Some familiarity with such issues is required. Jenks suggests that the failure of the scheme is emblematic of the wider problems with modernism in architecture. The Print Ego scheme had been designed according to the principles of rationalism, behaviorism, and pragmatism, but had not been provided a safe or enjoyable place to live. Jenks suggests that modern architecture has several key characteristics. Their claim is that architects need to be more understanding and less authoritarian in orientation. Venturi turned into casinos, hotels, and strip malls of Las Vegas for lessons. Although these had traditionally been condemned for populist and ugly, he argues that such evaluative distinction should be inverted. To the contrary, he asserts that the architecture of Las Vegas is vibrant, anti-elitist, and communicates effectively to ordinary people. Chapter 2: Postmodernism in Art and Literature. Postmodernism in Art and Literature. The aesthetic codes of modernism, for the most part, favored work that was deeply serious, internally consistent, innovative, abstruse, abstract, and authored by an individual genius. To a lesser extent, it has also celebrated reason, order, and knowledge, and carried it with some kind of message or commentary that is thought to be important about the world. Postmodern work in these fields is for the most part driven by a different aesthetic. There is often no clear moral or message in the work. Such creative products are often ironic in tone of mocking, and challenging established aesthetic practices and concepts. Chapter 3: Postmodernity in Social Theory. Discussion of postmodernity in social theory began with a work of French philosophers Lyotard and Baudrillard. Both are difficult to read and, like many theories, makes extreme claims but present limited supporting evidence. Later ideas about postmodernity were taken over by middle-range theorists who tended to make them relevant to their disciplinary concerns. Science, technology, complex administrative systems, and computers have become developed to a stage where knowledge has become the principal force of production over the last few decades. This shift had a qualitative as well as quantitative dimension. The utopian, visionary, and humanistic discourses that once animated social life has lost their authority. Lyotard calls this the decline of grand narratives, seen in his perspective. Lyotard is writing in the spirit of Weber and Rothbard's work. His major innovation, perhaps, is in theorizing the role of narrative and linguistic in the process of rationalization. It is also important to note that he places a major emphasis on the shift to a post-modern, post-industrial industry, rather than the move from a tradition to industrial modernity that had interested the earlier scholars. Chapter 4: Further Critiques and Debates. Like the neo-Marxist critique of postmodernism and postmodernization represents perhaps the most important line of attack, there is also an endlessly proliferating non-partisan literature which has relentlessly subjected this concept to scrutiny. Compounding this uncertainty yet further is that the fact that for many authors the postmodernism is simply an extension or logical progression of the modern. This means that it is possible to trace intimations of postmodernity back several centuries. We can point out, for example, to the rise of commodity fetishism and the narcissistic isolated individual in the 19th century, or to the predominance of supposedly modern features in the aesthetic systems of the 17th century bar, such as forerunners of the present threaten the idea of radical break, or even the validity of any attempt at periodization. A representative attack in this vein has been John Frow, who claims that postmodernism has no clear meaning. Most efforts at the definition he argues to seem to be in academic essays like his own. These set out to find a postdoc meaning for a concept that they found themselves using. He suggests that the term postmodernism has proven to be productive simply because the binarisms implicit with it. Globalization and culture. While discussion of globalization took up in a social science during the 1980s, it is important to remember that the process has been growing for a millennia. The movement from small-scale hunting and gathering societies toward the modernist nation-state, for example, can be seen as a step forward toward a global society. For this reason, much orthodox social and cultural theory can be understood as relating to the issue. They stress cultural imperialism and the way that the culture of the United States was being exported to the rest of the world along with this free market ideology. Particular attention was given to the export of the United States source media and entertainment products such as Disney cartoons. More recent adaptations of this position have pointed to the way that local difference is eroded by the rise of global cultural preferences and administrative systems. He writes, "If the world were less McDonaldized, people would be better able to live up on their own human potential." During the 1980s and the 1990s, this sort of thinking, with a specific emphasis on uniformity and the loss of authenticity as the outcome of globalization, came to increasingly challenge. A second model emerged which stressed the incredibly complex interplay of the global and the local, while these terms are often use their exact meaning and is elusive, and most discussions set about problematizing the binary distinction rather than its explication. And that's all from me. I've been MuhammadReifskyAlfares, and thank you very much. Have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and I'll see you later.